Guys, I'm really trusting you not to call Child Protective Services on me because I think I've killed all of my baby crayfish. I know, it's so dumb, but there's an explanation for all of it, and you know, it doesn't really make it any better. It still really sucks. I'm still really pissed about it, but this is how we learn stuff. If you guys are new to the channel and you haven't seen any of the other crayfish videos, I'll link them all in the description below so you can check those out and come back to this, and then it'll make a little bit more sense. But I'll just go ahead and give the short recap here. We had a mating pair of 2 dwarf Mexican crayfish in the tank. They mated, the babies hatched, and sort of at the same time as I started to notice the babies, the male crayfish died while he was molting. And actually, while I was editing the footage from the male crayfish getting eaten video, I noticed the babies. And so I kept those clips out because I'd already shot the video and it was already coming out. So basically all this stuff kind of happened at the same time, and I was still trying to make, you know, this story for you. And when I figured out, when it was brought to my attention that, hey, you overlooked this super simple detail, being that the crayfish need to have a harder water environment and able to do really well, and obviously to have a successful molt, as we saw the male crayfish, you know, go through that molt and not make it. It was too late because there were already babies swimming around, and by the time I figured everything out and went, oh duh, that's what's going on here, it was just too late. I was already seeing, you know, baby crayfish that were dying, and by the time I had everything figured out and a plan set up to try and save, you know, what babies I could and fix the whole situation, it was just too late. I was seeing fewer and fewer babies, and when they came out, you know, it was too late. I would see them in the morning and they would be dead. I did manage to get the female crayfish out of the Avatar tank, and I set her up here in just a little 5-gallon holder. She's back here in the corner. She's doing just fine. She really likes it in there. And this environment is a lot better for her. I just have a little sponge filter in here that I turned off for the sake of the video. But, you know, she's doing okay. She's been in here for like 4 or 5 days now. I think 4 days. So everything's really good, but you know, back to the whole, you know, how this whole thing happened. I just overlooked the fine print when it came to these crayfish. I assumed that they would be able to do just fine in this soft, acidic environment, and the fact is that while they are pretty resistant to a wide range of pHs, that super soft water that's in the Avatar tank is not going to be good for them. They require a moderate water hardness, at least like 6 DGH, and unfortunately, that was what caused the male to end up not molting properly over here in this right corner. And ultimately, I think the fact that the water was super soft was why the babies didn't end up surviving. Obviously, you know, when you have a bunch of new baby organisms in your tank, not all of them are going to make it. Some are just going to die because they lack fitness. So, you know, I wasn't, you know, freaking out when I was seeing, you know, 1 or 2 dead. I assumed that would happen. Again, there was like 20 of them that came out of this first batch. So I wasn't freaking out. I thought, you know, hey, this is totally normal stuff. But like I said, 99% sure that they're all gone. I haven't seen any crayfish babies in this tank for almost a week now. And I think it's safe to say that none of them made it. The female crayfish over here in the holding tank should be just fine until we can get her a new home, and I plan to do that as soon as I can. Unfortunately, it's not going to be, you know, the next couple weeks. It's probably going to be the next couple of months until I get my new aquarium office set up in the house. The water coming out of my tap is really perfect for these guys. And again, the reason why we had the problems over here was because the fluvial stratum substrate is an active substrate, and it reduces pH, it reduces GH, and it reduces KH. So it brings the water hardness down along with the pH, and it ended up not being good for these organisms. It was something that I chose to overlook, and it cost me. A simple solution to fixing the water hardness problems in any tank is to just start adding a specific amount of C-Chem equilibrium. And that's exactly what I started to do, guys, as soon as I figured out what probably the problem was in this tank. And I think the real problem was that I just didn't act fast enough. The babies had already been swimming around in this tank for a few days, and you know, I didn't want to throw the water hardness all the way up to like, you know, 8 DGH and shock everybody in here. So I started to build my GH over the next couple of days, but by the time we got it up there to something that was, you know, somewhat stable here in this environment, it was just too late. The water over here in the holding tank is pretty much perfect though. The DGH is like 5 to 6. The DKH, again, sort of matches that GH. Sometimes it's a little bit lower, and it's going to get lower depending on, if you're running CO2 and how long you go without doing water changes. But the point is that if I would have just set up the Crayfish in a tank that didn't have an active substrate, I probably would have been just fine. And that's something that I'm really, really wanting to talk about in a whole nother video, is just active substrates and sort of the pros and cons of each one, because obviously I had some negative things happen as a result of using it. At least that's the theory, and I'm pretty confident that that was the case here. So like I said, the plan is to just keep her in here and wait it out until I can get some more smaller tanks set up in the new aquarium office. I plan on doing an entire tank that's just dedicated to the crayfish and some other species, not shrimp, so we won't have the same kind of crazy stuff going on. But we'll get these guys a good home, we'll get another male, and we'll do the whole breeding thing again, and we'll get it to work. And I won't make the same mistakes twice. This hobby is full of making mistakes, guys, and here I am showing you myself doing stupid things, looking over the fine print, those details that are really important for a lot of organisms out there. And I hope that as long as one person learns something, then that makes it all worth it to me, and I'll sacrifice my credibility in all of this, because again, I've never kept these guys before. I'm fairly new to shrimp as well. So this is a really fun journey. This is what the hobby is all about. And while, I like to think that I do know a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff in this hobby, there are things that, you can't be an expert on everything, is the point that I'm trying to make. So again, hopefully somebody out there learns something from this. And if you decide to go down the crayfish route, just make sure that you have hard enough water to keep them. So yeah, guys, I think this is probably gonna be the last crayfish video for a long time, until we get her in a new tank, and we get a new male, and we get a whole new really awesome environment for these guys that has the right set of parameters for them to do really well. In the meantime, we still have a bunch of really cool projects and stuff to keep you entertained. I got all my driftwood out here ready to go up in the 90, and I decided to go with the white sand, despite the fact that I think like 80% of you guys really wanted me to use the dark stuff. I did a quick little test with the darker pool filter sand. You can see all this black stuff. It seems to be like a less dense particle that's in the sand, and you're only going to get it balled up like that if you swirl the sand up in a cyclone like this. But I was thinking about the fact that that stuff's in there, and I just really want to use the white sand. I haven't used white pool filter sand in forever, and I just think it's going to look really awesome contrasting with the boulder lava and of course the wood. So I guess that's another thing that I didn't really mention. There's going to be a ton of wood in this tank. You can see I'm already starting to plan out how I want things to look, and I'm really excited to start working on this. Hopefully in the next couple of days, and I can get a video, the next video for this project out, hopefully on Sunday. Anyway, guys, I hope my stupidity through this whole crayfish situation and avatar tank debacle, I guess you'd call it, helped at least somebody out there that's maybe thinking about keeping these types of organisms. The shrimp are all doing, they're still doing great. Everybody else is not having problems in this tank, but there's still a lot of things, mostly around the water parameters, why this tank isn't good. I've already pretty much talked, about all of it, but again, I'll make a separate video about why this tank is not really the best, and we'll dive more into substrates, because there is just so much chemistry and so much biology involved with substrates that I think a lot of people, people just need to know more about. This tank's going to continue to roll along here, but we might be making some pretty big changes soon. I don't want to give too much away, but anyway, guys, I hope that by me sharing sort of my stupidity and my fails in this whole avatar aquarium crayfish situation, has helped at least a couple of you guys. I appreciate you guys for watching so much. If you're new, consider subscribing. I'll try to continue to get things right and not wrong. And if I do get things wrong, I'll be sure to share it with you so you can learn some stuff as well. Don't forget to go follow me on Instagram, guys, because I'm going to be posting pictures like multiple days early of this tank as it develops. So make sure you go follow me over there so you can get a sneak peek of it. Thanks so much again for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.